Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of One Path to Wealth. I am your host, Jeremy Dicker, the Hebrew Hammer, with my co-host, Peter Hoopis. We're really excited to be with you today on another beautiful, getting close to spring day. Pete, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, Hammer. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Hard to be bad,
Yeah,
hard to be bad.
hard to be bad. That's right.
Baseball season is here. The Dodgers are in Arizona. Spring training. My depression officially ends. There's baseball is back. My
It's
Dodgers are
coming.
poised to go deep again. So hard to be bad, my man.
Well, I agree. Seeing as I'm a White Sox fan, I mean, it can only get better than last year's worst record ever, I think. I hope, at least. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
Well, thank God you're a winner at heart because good God, what an awful team the White Sox are.
Yes, you're not kidding. Kind of on that line, I want to talk about winning. I want to talk about high performance habits. I know this is something that you have some very successful people that you work with and have worked with over the years. And I thought it would be cool if we could just kind of talk about some of the things that you've noticed, some of the things that set these top one percenters apart from the rest. So, if there's one thing, I mean, and we're going to talk about this a lot. So it's just, we've got a series of questions we can go through. But, what's the mindset of high achievers that you've seen? I mean, over the years, I mean, is there one thing that really sticks out, or is it a series of things?
It's a series of things, but I would tell you it starts, oddly enough, with the acceptance of pain. And I think in order for you to be a high achiever, to be a high performer, anything you do, you've got to accept that there's a lot of pain along the way. I mean, when you think about performance weightlifters or performance track athletes, there's a lot of pain to get to the point by which that these successful, incredible athletes get. A lot of time in the gym, a lot of mental pain. I follow Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Phil Heath because, as you know, I like to weightlift, and it's really interesting to watch these athletes and what they go through and what they have to put their body through. And even the littlest things like eating is difficult, right? And what not to eat and knowing, that in the program. So in my experience, without pain, you don't have pleasure. And in my experience, now with all of the incredible clients and relationships that I've been so blessed to be surrounded in over a almost 30-year career now, one thing that's common is they have this acceptance of pain, this understanding that it's going to be hard, that there's going to be challenges. A lot of things they're not going to want to do. So I think it starts there. And you got to get your
Yeah.
mindset into a place where you're accepting the challenge and you're accepting the possibility and probability of pain and some failure along the way. Because fundamentally, you
Right.
don't get a lot of success without a lot of failure.
Yeah, so and for sure, there's setbacks definitely along the way. And the most successful people probably have had the most no's, let's say. So how do you what are you seeing? How are they handling that? What are they doing different than a lot of the other people that are receiving that same type of setback? What's the mindset of the elite that handle it differently?
Yeah, so in my experience, what I've seen is it's about compartmentalizing. You've got to compartmentalize the good, the bad, the challenging, the necessary, the needed, the unnecessary. You've got to be able to separate that. And very similarly, that separation has to be in every aspect of any encounter that you choose to take on. The idea that you've got to do certain things every day, but at the end of the road, you're going to have the success that you indeed want. And it's the ability to compartmentalize and separate some of those challenges that they're going to have, and just also knowing that there's going to be some pain points, some problem areas, some areas that aren't going to be so enjoyable. But at the end of the day, at the end of that rainbow, things are going to work themselves out if you deliver on the expectations, you deliver on the things that you said were important, you follow a plan. And that would be what I'd really tell you. There's a plan. The oldest, most successful people I know, every one of them has a plan. Whether it be they're successful in their wealth management, their own wealth management, their real estate careers, their professional careers, their sporting careers, they follow a plan and they adhere to that plan. Now, The other piece to that, I think that's equally as important, is the ability to look at your plan and say, you know what? There's a couple things I'm going to need to modify because, hey, I'm 90 days in. We've tried a bunch of things. A lot of things have worked, but there's a few things along the way that we need to tweak, that we need to improve upon so that the next 90 days, those improvements show dramatic results along the way. Then again, I'll liken it to exercise. I think it's important that when you're weight training, the things that you're doing are focusing not just on how much you lift, but are you doing it correctly? Are you taking the necessary steps to provide stability so you don't get injured? Are you working with a trainer or another professional or another person that can help guide you down a specific path that might improve your overall performance? And I think all of those things are consistent in business and candidly in life. I mean, look, if you're struggling in your marriage, as all of us do at times, or you're struggling with your children, as all of us do at times, certainly I do, you need to take a step back, look at what it is you're doing, and seek a better method to improve your communication, to improve your dialogue, to just improve who you are individually. Taking a step back and reflecting and understanding that, hey, there's a couple things here that are on me, and I could do a lot better. And I think that's really one of the keys is successful people realize that they don't have all the answers. Successful people realize that the answers lie with asking more questions. Successful people realize that they can't go at it and be at it alone, that Rome was not built in a day, and it certainly was not built by one person, but it's built by surrounding yourself with people that align with you, that believe in you, that understand where it is you're trying to go and are going to help you get there.
So you really think that approach, the mindset initially setting out is different, if I'm hearing you. You think they go into that with the mindset of knowing there might be some setbacks and some challenges, but they do have a plan. So is it that they've not necessarily anticipate that, but they know it's coming and it's just a little blip on the radar?
Yeah, no, I would say they do anticipate it. They know, look, they're not hoping to have the car crash. They don't want to watch the accident occur as it's happening. But in my experience, really successful people know that there's going to be. They're anticipating it. They
Mm-hmm.
understand it. Again, we'll use athletics. You know you're going to strain yourself if you're training 4, 5, 6 days a week. It's going to happen no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not drinking enough water, you're going to get dehydrated. Your muscles are going to get sore and tight in a place that maybe they wouldn't had you had different behavior. Did you consume too much alcohol the night before? Are you the best version of yourself, which you and I have talked often a lot about. The reality of it is
Yeah.
successful people know and understand that they're not going to be 100% 100% of the time. But if they can get close to executing on the things that are most important, if they can get close to a clear identity of who they are, what they're trying to achieve, and how, then you've got something that's really spectacular. Then you have something that is worth developing, building, and going towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can stick with that baseball mindset too, right? 1 out of 3 as a hitter is an
Hall of
amazing
Fame.
year, right?
You're Hall of Famer.
They're
Yeah.
failing 2 times. 2 out of 3, they're failing, right? And
66%
that's
of the
the
time you're
approach.
failing. Yeah.
Yeah, so having that view of, look, maybe that's moving you one step closer to my hit, right? Just struck out, or flat, ground out. I'm getting closer to my next hit, and that could be the difference in that mindset. Yeah, they'll be a Hall of Famer with a 333 career average. At least they
Well,
should be.
and they
So,
should, right? And I'll tell you,
yeah.
to that end, right, there's two kinds of Hall of Famers in that regard, certainly multiple types, by the way, but let's take that for a minute. So you've got that 333 hitter that accumulates those 3,000 hits. Then you've got that 250 hitter that accumulates those 3,000 hits. They're both Hall of Famers. But
Mm,
one guy did it over 20, or gal, one guy, it's baseball, right? Today, it lies today.
yeah.
One guy did it over a 10-year career, 15-year career, whatever the number is, or a 20-year career,
Mhm.
25-year career. The other guy did it over a shorter or longer period of time than that person. Are either of those people less successful, yet they took a different path? I was watching the Nolan Ryan documentary, and Pete Rose and Roger Clemens and all these individuals that are interviewed about Nolan Ryan were all asked the same question: how many Cy Young awards did Nolan Ryan win? Roger said he had 3 or 4. Pete Rose, rest his soul, said 2 or some such number. And The answer was zero. Nolan Ryan, one of the
Wow.
most successful pitchers, arguably, of
Wow.
all
Yeah.
time, pitched for 27 years, had no Cy Youngs. Does that mean he's not a
Wow.
Hall of Famer? No, he's a Hall of Famer. And
Yeah. Oh,
you look at,
right.
no question about it, and there are hitters out there that have had a shorter career because of injury. Sandy Koufax, I think the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time, Sandy Koufax, had a short career. Certainly didn't have the wins and losses that most would have had to get in. A 300-win career, no. But he was the most dominating pitcher of his time for a decade, which qualifies him to be a Hall of Famer, first ballot, all day, every day. Right? You look at Ichiro Suzuki, who just got into the Hall of Fame. Ichiro was, without question, in my opinion, the greatest hitter that I had ever seen over that short period of time. But he came into the major leagues at age 27. When most players come in at 22, 23, 24, 25, he came in at 27, and look what he did. And he was almost a unanimous selection to the Hall. One voter to, now Ichiro said famously, I'd like to take that guy out for a drink. One voter voted him not as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Right.
So I think my point
So
of the comment, Pete, is that I think that you got to look at everybody's got different paths to success, right? Whether you hit 250 and you got 3,000 hits, you're still a Hall of Famer. If you hit 333 and you had 3,100 hits, you're still a Hall of Famer. You had 2,500 hits, but over that 15-year career, you hit 333 on average, you're still a Hall of Famer. And I think the attitude and the mindset of the really successful people is they're going to be in the Hall of Fame no matter what. They're going to do it. And they're going to deal with the pain that goes along with that success. But they're going to look at the 80-20 rule, which you and I adhere to and talk about often. The 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the time, things are not going to go your way. 80% of the time, they're going to go your way. Well, if you got that 20% of the crap, the crud, the not fun stuff on Monday morning at 7 a.m. or in the first 90 days of your year when you started off really ready to have a great year, and you got that 20% in the first 90 days, that crud, that crap, that not fun stuff. There's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it one way that says the rest of the year is going to be awesome because I got rid of all the pain now. And that's the attitude and mindset of the really successful individual athlete and so on. Or you can look at it the other way as woe is me. The world is ending. What I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not the right fit. This isn't for me. And the attitude and mindset of the successful individual, of that wealthy, not necessarily wealthy in terms of monetary, but wealth of knowledge individual, or that person that really wants to prevail and be successful, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
I got rid of that
How
20%.
much?
Everything else is going to be great. Sorry, go ahead.
So how much is it then on those daily habits, right? Of just having that discipline every single day to do what it is that you think need to do to achieve those massive results?
Discipline is everything. It's absolutely everything. The ability
Yeah.
to saying no to going out a little too late, not getting the rest that you need to be successful. The ability to put
Yeah.
down that second or third drink at a party because, hey, nothing good happens when I've had two or three and I can have one and let's just not do it. And obviously there's people that have addiction problems. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the average everyday Joe that knows they shouldn't be or doing those kinds of things and choose to not make the best decisions. It's the discipline to get up in the morning at the same time, get ready the same way, to go out your day and attack the day. Right? You got to attack the day. Ben Newman, a guy that you and I both know very well, famous performance coach and New York Times best-selling writer and an all-around pretty amazing guy, he always uses that terminology, attack the day. And I think successful entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
people that want to be the best, look at every day as, I need to attack the day. The day is not going to attack me. I'm not going to let it control me. And I'll liken it to a Little League story. My son plays Little League, and he's in a travel ball team. He's an exceptional athlete, great baseball player. Well, there are coaches that let the boys, when they get out of control, throw the ball all over the field because at 10, 11, boys are going to make mistakes. They're not going to always be engaged in the game. It's a difficult game, et cetera, right? And then there are other coaches that walk out and say, okay, you guys have just thrown the ball over the field. Time, walk out to the mound, bring the kids together on the mound, get everybody to slow it down. In my mind, that's the correct approach. When things aren't going your way, time out. Let's slow this down. Let's look at where we're having challenges or issues along the way. and attack the day, attack those things to build towards the success that you intend and will have.
Right.
Versus the attitude, and again, Phil Jackson, famous Chicago Bulls and Laker coach, arguably the greatest basketball coach of all time, would allow his players to make a bunch of mistakes in the triangle. He wouldn't go out there and call time, famously. He believed that they're going to do what they need to do because they have a plan and they're going to execute it, even if they're not going to execute it perfectly 100% of the time, the triangle. A
Yeah.
different approach, obviously equally successful, right? And I would tell you that in both scenarios that I just described a moment ago, both scenarios, you're going to attack it, right? You're not going to stop. You're going to attack the day. And you're going to go forward with your vision clearly, concisely, and intentionally, most importantly. You got to be
Yeah.
intentional about the direction you want to go.
Yeah. So how do you deal with burnout or doing too much and managing that through this process?
Man, that is hard. It's something I deal with all the time. Just, you get burned out, you get tired. Self-care is very important. And self-care tends to not be found in the bottom of a bottle. You're right. And I think for a lot of successful people, certainly I've had those issues too, where I just want to tune it all out and I'm going to have that extra drink because I just need to. When I very well know that there's no answers found in finishing that drink or the bottom of that bottle. And I think all individuals contend with that burnout. They're tired. There's so many competing priorities that all of us have in our lives, whether it be our children, our spouses, our significant others, our businesses, all of the above. So the way I've found most of the people that I know that address it the most effective way is they slow it down and they eliminate the behavior that is not helping towards the end goal. Because if it's not helping, it's hurting. There are only two types of behavior. It's either helpful or hurtful. Nothing in
Yeah.
between. That extra laugh
You
you
know,
have is helping. That extra joke at someone else's expense is hurting. And in my experience, that's really what successful people are clear on, is the helpful versus the hurtful.
yeah. And I know a lot of the people that you work with are business owners, closely held businesses. I mean, that is so challenging to really unplug, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the decision fatigue that happens with running your own business, I mean, most of these decisions are going through them in some capacity. I mean, how, in your experience talking with people in that situation, how do they handle the unplug when it's their business? I mean, that seems to be extremely challenging.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of different ways. Some people have internal slash external outlets, like their spouse they'll talk to about business. And some people, myself included, at the end of a workday, don't really want to talk about my challenging day to my spouse or my significant other because it's just, I'm not ready to engage that way. And it's not right or wrong, just because it's just a difference of opinion. What I found is the most successful people do have some kind of an outlet, whether it be a study group person, a counselor, someone that they consider a trusted confidant, but they need input. And what I would say is the most successful people that I know, that I've experienced in my career, both personally and professionally, the most successful people have an outlet. They've got somebody that they're talking with or some circle they're talking with about the different things that are going on, and they're seeking advice and they're seeking to improve. They're not looking for someone to say, hey, you did that wrong, because most people will shut down, but
Right.
they are seeking to improve. Like you and I flew out to see your dad, who has been a mentor of mine for 30 years and certainly for your lifetime. And we went out with the purpose of what?
Improvement, learning, educating,
Yeah,
growth. Yeah.
because we're seeking to improve and we're looking for someone else's view, because it's oftentimes in business and in life, you're too close to it. You're there, you're in it every day. You know the answers, you're too close to it. So how do
Yeah.
you step away and say, hold on, man, hold on. Maybe there is an alternative view here that I'm not seeing because I am too close to it, right? And I
Yeah.
think the truly successful minded individuals sit there and they have those people. And again, can be their spouses, their significant others, best friend, whomever. There's not a, but they have somebody or some circle that they can go to, depend on, not necessarily for advice, but to say, hey, have you thought about it this way? Right. And we have that certainly within our firm internally. We certainly do. And I would like to think that we have it externally with the people that we've had been blessed to know over a 30-year career.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they say, right? You want to get something done, you give it to the busiest person in the room. They'll
Right.
get it done. Finding that time, to educate yourself and self-improvement is probably one of the hardest things to do, I think, right? But
I
when you
agree.
look at it, and you said this, right? When you look at the most successful people, they have study groups, they have coaches, they are constantly going to industry associations,
Yep.
they're reading like crazy. When you look at that, and I always think, Tiger Woods. When you look at him over the years, what was one thing you always saw? Him with his swing coach, just staring. And you're talking probably the greatest golfer of all time. Certainly his run was incredible, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He was working on his swing all the time, right?
That's
From
right.
someone giving him input, watching it, learning it, watching videos over and over and over again. And the amount of time that he had other people helping him improve obviously leads to massive success.
Well, and most interestingly about that, and this is true in most circumstances, um, that the guy that is this, that the men that have been his swing coaches over the years never were as successful as he was on the golf course.
Right,
And I think
right.
it's interesting when you think of like Barry Bonds, arguably the greatest hitter of all time. Take aside the steroid accusations and all of that, and in my opinion, not a very nice guy, but arguably the greatest hitter of all time, and deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Uh, Awful hitting coach. He was a hitting coach for the Miami Marlins, and didn't work out, and he was in and he was out, and he's gone. Right. Then there's Chili Davis, who borderline cusp Hall of Famer, incredible baseball player in his time, has proven to be a phenomenal hitting coach, and so many others that started down a path where they may have had a great career, but they couldn't teach it. And then you've had other people that had great careers and could teach it because that was their mindset. And then you had others that had subpar careers, but boy, can they teach it and they can see it and their mind works a different way. And I think it's the same thing in business and candidly in life. It's like you need to have someone that has a different set of eyes than you do and a different thought process. And most importantly, can communicate that thought process and what they're seeing in a way that is accepting to you, right? Because you don't want to feel beat up. When people feel beat up, they close down. They're not interested in talking. But if people feel like you've got their best interest at hand and that you're just there to help them be the best version of themselves and that you're there to help them get better, they're going to be open to that. And you know what? You may not even have a lot in common with that person. But the mere fact that you've expressed an interest and a desire to help them be better and to help them succeed, even if they're already successful, wildly successful, that's a win. That's a win.
Right. So with all these ideas we've tossed out here, for someone that's listening right now and say, okay, this has been helpful. Hopefully people are thinking this has been super helpful. What's one thing that you think they should implement, or where should they start if they try to build better habits or success or achievement, let's call it, in their life?
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You
Yeah.
got if you're feeling like you're not the best at what it is that you're doing at the moment, you got to be willing to examine it. You got to be willing to say, I can do better, and I'm going to go ahead and seek other individuals of like mind, like principles that will help me be better. So number one, it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Number two is don't take it personal. And I am guilty of that. I take things way too personally. And the reality of it is, it's just business. You can't take it personal. Now, if someone that you love near and dear and is really important says something, yeah, you should take that personally. There's something there that your wife or your significant other says that has been hurtful to them. that you've done, you should own that. Take it personally, and do what you can to be better about communicating your goals and objectives within that relationship. Absolutely. But overall, I would say you can't take it personal. You got to be short-minded. You got to be the goldfish, right? The goldfish in the fishbowl. You got to flush it, as they say. You got to move on. Next, right? The greatest word in our business is next. If people, if you've got a challenging thing that's happening to you at a specific time, you got to just be able to move on and say, it's okay, I'm good. Move on. So I
Right.
think the biggest key there with all of that, in my mind, Pete, is that you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You've got to understand there's going to be a lot of pain before there's pleasure. You got to be aware that anytime you try to take yourself to a place that you haven't been before, you're going to meet that road with a lot of twists and turns, on a lot of bumps and a few potholes along the way, and that's okay. It's part of the process. And then lastly, I'd say you got to embrace the process. You got to embrace it. You can't let it get away from you, but you do have to embrace it.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other final thoughts for us as we start to wrap this thing up?
I think that number one, I would say if there's anybody out there that really feels like they're stuck, don't remain stuck. You're okay to ask for help. It's okay to not have all the answers all the time. God knows I don't, and I look for help around every corner because I want to be the best version of myself, and I know that it doesn't always happen. So the biggest thing is I would tell anybody that's listening out there that's hearing some of this and some of these words that are resonating, seek guidance, seek help. Go talk to someone about whatever it is that you're stuck with or challenged by personally, professionally, financially, home, in the business, whatever it might be. And don't be afraid to let your guard down, to open the kimono and really share who you are, what you're working on, what you're struggling with. My guess is the people that you share it with have had some of the same experiences. And if you value and trust them, they can help you move past some of the pain that you're experiencing.
That's a great point. Very good.
It's been a fun one today. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
so as we sign off, great one today. Our goal with these podcasts are always to bring interesting content. Hopefully, we do that. We don't have a specific message any day. We want to have messages that we feel resonate with our community every day. So, with that, I am your host, Jeremy Dicker, the Hebrew Hammer, with Peter Hoopis, my co-host. If you like this podcast and others, please click like on the like button, and don't forget to subscribe at onewealthmgmt.com, One Wealth Podcast on all your streaming services.
Thank you for listening to One Path to Wealth podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.onewealthmgmt.com or give us a call at 855-663-9584. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of One Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Investment advisory services offered through One Wealth Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance solutions offered through One Wealth Management, Financial and Insurance Services, Inc.